r/AskReddit. Earlybox6148 says, Men of Reddit, what is the worst thing a woman has done to you? Serious. As throwaway AK516X says, last year when my ex and I were visiting our relatives' graves, I started crying at my grandpa's grave, since my grandpa and I were really close. My ex looked at me all disgusted and said, why are you crying like a little girl? Man up and grow a pair. Haven't been on a single date or a relationship since. Namer05 says, everyone who says men shouldn't cry is just an asshole. The 340 says, for me, any woman who uses the phrase man up is a huge red flag indicator to me. South Motto says, my ex absolutely ruined me for years. For starters, she cheated on me multiple times because I didn't give her enough attention. I had to work 7 days a week 12 to 14 hours a day to support our family because she refused to work. Then when I finally had enough and divorced her, she tried forcing my son to call every man she was with his father. And would gaslight me by saying they are better because they are here and not just every other weekend. Then on her fourth husband she got addicted to meth. They both would threaten me, call me every name in the book, swear to my son that I was a piece of shit deadbeat, and tried to move hours away so that I couldn't see him. I got full custody after 8 years of dealing with this shit. She now has 8 felony charges awaiting trial, and I hope she goes to prison. Blooddiamond_76 says, hope your son is okay now. South Motto says, he's doing way better now. Between therapy, a stable home, and school that really helps him with his education and extracurricular activities. Thank you for your kind words. Top Trash 9731 says, tried to have me killed. Twice. Called the police and told them I was armed, dangerous, and threatening her. They came a knocking with guns drawn. Banned Books 123 says, I watched this documentary once called Accused or something like that. Apparently the dude's wife was going through a psychotic episode and she was coming after him with a knife and threatening to kill him and their baby son. He shoots her while she runs towards him with a knife, and it's all on camera. His lawyer was saying if the video footage didn't exist, that guy would have gotten life in prison. She was a little woman and he was a pretty big guy. Mr. Eman 999 says, what did the cops do when they saw you were unarmed? They still threw you to the ground and punched you, or what? Ted Bundis Volkswagen says, accused me of cheating on her over and over again for no reason at all. I hardly ever leave the house. It takes such a heavy emotional toll. Fireman 77333 says, she cheated, she wanted you to too, so she can have an excuse for herself, happens all the time. Curti says, this just posted basically the same thing as you, bro. It's absurd how much this happens. Bruiser_209 says, met a girl at a party. Hung out all night. Afterwards we exchanged numbers and I went home. Next day she asks what I'm doing. I said just resting, since I was tired and had work the next day. She said look out your window, and she was parked across the street and she had kids in the car. I had no idea she had kids, and I had not given her my home address. And this was when not a lot of the internet had search engines to find people. Till this day I never found out how she knew where I lived. But it was one of the most creepiest and cringe moments of my life, and even now it cringes the F out of me. Marin Willis says, had a similar thing with this girl. Hung out like twice. Flirted and messed around a bit but nothing major. But I wasn't really interested, so I started backing away. She got drunk one night and drove around the area she knew I lived for a long time trying to find me. She eventually found my truck and sat out in the parking lot and texted me she was sitting outside my place. Still told her nope. So then she goes and tells a bunch of people we had slept together. I blew up after multiple instances of this and told her to seek therapy. She replied she was. I told her to get a new therapist then. Bruiser_209 says, yay, she needs help alright. It's hard to explain the feeling, but it's so creepy, and creepy isn't the word I would use, but I can't think of anything else. Smorgas_of_Borg says, pretended to be attracted to me, but never in fact was. Did this to me multiple times. Gave me self-esteem issues I still struggle with decades later. I'll never forgive her for it. Her mom and grandma really liked me, so they'd nag her to date me whenever we had broken up. She'd tell me she wanted to get back together, and like an idiot I'd take her back every time, only to have her break up after a few weeks to a month again. I hate her for doing that to me. In every sense of the word. r/AskReddit. Significant Right 830 says, what are some signs of internet or social media fatigue, and are we starting to see them in society? Alessandra95 says, severe body and face dysmorphia. I see literal teenagers asking how to fix their wrinkles, normal creasing due to human facial movement that even toddlers have in skin subs, because everyone is forgetting what human beings look like in person without filters. Tib 617 says, this. Wanting to use a filter because their face looks weird in normal cameras. They aren't used to seeing people as they are. Everything is edited. Malfeticulusback says, the rise of teen depression or mental issues like anxiety. Cyanidic_ says, this is probably the biggest impact of them all. I can't attest of what it was like before social media, but it seems every teen claims to be going through something RN, and it's really disheartening to see. My younger friends always tell me about how their mental health is terrible despite the fact they have fairly fun and exciting lives, which I realize can be a bit of a front, but I still think a lot of it has to do with social media these days. Romani says, it's a sticky wicket, though. On one hand, these conditions are definitely on the rise, and it's a serious problem. On the other hand, some individuals that do not have these conditions are claiming that they do, and using these claims as a crutch, consciously or otherwise. Not as big of a problem, but one to keep an eye on regardless. Naturalist Romantic says, dopamine addiction, and yes. Most young people, myself included, are much grayer than previous generations. Lower energy, happiness deprived, etc. Kerry2816 says, I'm 37, so Facebook first came out when I was a freshman in college, and it hadn't taken over the world yet. I had MySpace, AIM, and Xanga as a high schooler. None of them seemed to be as addictive as social media is now. I think a big part of it has to do with the fact that Facebook, especially other social media and Google, have become so necessary in life. Want to sign into this website? Sign with Facebook or Google. Want to know what random people are saying about top news stories? Jump on Twitter or X, whatever, it will always be Twitter. Most people my age that I know don't watch the news, they find out online. We are surrounded by social media and have to make a conscious countercultural effort to say no to social media and screens in general and go outside into the world again. Naturalist Romantic says, we are surrounded by social media and have to make a conscious countercultural effort to say no to social media and screens in general and go outside into the world again. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think we are going to see an explosion of people swearing themselves to being rural recluses in the coming years. Some may say it's already started. For Wheels_more appeals says, the fact that almost every parent is occupying their kids' brains with phones/iPads to keep them quiet. That's going to take a toll on them in the future. Gizmaglitch says, I've got nieces and nephews that eat every single meal with a kids show playing on a tablet. They go out for groceries as a family and just hand their phone over to the kids so they can shop. I got no business speaking for other parents when I don't have kids of my own, but there's no way can that be a good thing for a kid's attention span or the way they'll interact socially. I grew up with none of this, and the ability to just focus and be somewhere without relying on external stimulation / constantly reaching for my phone is such a challenge, even for me. It feels like the kids in this generation don't even have that as an experience draw on, to have the patience to be bored or be somewhere without a phone locked onto a hand all the time. Romani says, an entire generation seems to be slightly sociopathic. That might be a sign. Funky Winkabian 45 says, I think most people are a bit sociopathic, tbh. There was just more pressure to hide it in older gens. I'm 51. Bzor says, radicalization from all sides. People are in a loop of research and debate and building silos of self-righteousness and good vs evil narrative. Next step is believing every bad thing on the other side, even insane stuff that isn't making any sense, and then the road to dehumanizing and potential violence is short. Odd_juice_314 says, all people becoming lunners. Shadow 948 says, the amount of anxiety, depression, and several other mental illness is seen rapidly increasing in society. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.